So I've been seeing a lot of people complaining about this news that Xbox could be getting Steam and how it's going to be bad for Xbox, and this is going to overall be a net negative for Xbox. This is coming from Camp PlayStation mainly. It's coming from people who are mainly supportive of PlayStation and saying that this won't be a good thing for Xbox. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, aren't they the ones also saying that Xbox is dead? So why would this be a net negative for Xbox when all I can see is this being a net positive? Now, people are saying, well, Microsoft isn't going to make any money and all this and all that, and it's going to devalue their console even more. And I think they're looking at this the complete wrong way. And if we're looking at what Just Dan is saying here, the usual suspects on here twisting themselves into a pretzel trying to explain why this would be bad. If the next Xbox indeed comes with a proper Steam, Epic, GOG integration, I ain't going anywhere. Why the hell would I, with all my games plus PlayStation games in one box? And that's the kicker here. This will be the Holy Grail. But you know what? Let's have the drop and get into it. So the big question is, as we saw yesterday, this image leaked opening $1 billion with Xbox, and obviously Steam was one of the filters on there. Now clearly this is a mock-up done by their creative team, but Steam is obviously something that they are going to want to integrate. This has been a long rumored thing, and even when Destin asked Phil Spencer in his interview, he just kind of giggled and moved past it. He didn't give a definitive no. So much for the transparency, right? But I'm guessing there's still a lot of legal stuff going on there that they need to get the dots and the T's signed and make sure everything's done before a formal announcement is made. And even though rumors are there, if Phil actually turned around and said, yes, this is happening, that could affect overall share prices. So, all things considered, I don't think legally he's in a position where he can confirm one way or the other, hence why he started laughing instead of actually telling and giving a specific answer. But the biggest naysayers at the moment is coming from the stables. They've clearly come together again and congregated and had their meetings while licking their sugar cubes, and have come to the conclusion that every single one of them are going to come out now moving their mental gymnastics to try and say how this is bad and how Sony is not going to allow them, at least on the next Xbox, put PlayStation games on the Xbox. Well, here's the thing, and I know people may fail to understand this. They keep using GeForce Now and how Sony removed it off the cloud streaming service, and that is perfectly fine, but cloud streaming as opposed to a machine running Windows is totally different. If the next Xbox, which is pretty much what I'm expecting, is going to be a Windows PC with an overlay of this kind that basically allows you to go through any store, have all your games in one place, buy your games wherever you want, it's still going to be running Windows. At that point, there is nothing Sony can do to remove it. And now people are saying, but that's a loophole, it's not the same thing. Look, as far as I'm concerned, I can go to Boosteroid right now, subscribe to the service, and play PlayStation games on my Xbox through Boosteroid. And no matter how much of a mental gymnastic loophole you want to say it is, I don't need to buy a PlayStation to play those games. I can play it through my Xbox using the browser, and I'll get a good experience as long as my internet is, fast enough. So, at the end of the day, no matter how you look at it, it is still stopping me from the need to go and buy a PlayStation. So I am playing those PlayStation games on my Series X. And this has been proven time and time again with at least Boosteroid, because Boosteroid has a kind of different setup as opposed to GeForce Now. Boosteroid is basically a virtual machine that you log into, and that machine is basically a Windows machine that runs the games, right? So, in that regard, there's really not much Sony can do to stop it. And that same principle would apply here. There's not much Sony can do to stop it. Now, people are saying, well, what's Microsoft going to get out of this? What's stopping me from buying games from Steam, Epic, GOG, and not buying it from the Microsoft Store? Well, Microsoft has already said, well, Phil Spencer in particular, we're no longer trying to get people to come from PlayStation or Nintendo over to Xbox or PC to Xbox. We're just going to bring the games and you can buy it where you want. You want to buy it on Steam and build your catalog on Steam? Fine, you can go do that. And you know, once Steam goes on to Xbox, people are saying, well, Valve's going to want their 30%. They're not going to get 30%. They're probably going to get somewhere in the region of about 15%. And I think for third-party games, it's going to work differently. For, you know, first-party games, there's probably going to be a different rate, because that kind of makes a little more sense. But as far as Valve is concerned, getting something instead of nothing is better for them. Right? Getting something instead of nothing is better for them. Now, the big question, obviously, around all of this is, and the big kind of taboo, is going to be Xbox Live, the requirement to pay to play online. Now, if they are going for that complete PC kind of hybrid, or just PC with a console shell, Xbox Live kind of has to go. It can't really stay anymore and be what it is. At the end of the day, it just doesn't work that way. But this, and I see a lot of people going crazy over this at the moment. You know, the Xbox fans have got every right to be excited for this, because this just basically makes the next Xbox, because I don't think it's going to happen with this Xbox, but the next Xbox, it just makes it become, you know, an all-in-one jack of all trades where you can play all your games. And, you know, if you've been collecting your free games on Epic Game Store, on GOG, and if you've got Amazon Prime where they give you free games every month, all of those games will appear in your catalog ready for you to play. The key here is these games natively being able to be installed on your Xbox machine to play the games. And if that is what this is going to be, this is the biggest game changer Microsoft could do to disrupt the gaming landscape. Because at the end of the day, not only will you have access to your Steam, Epic, GOG, and at this point, once they go onto Game Pass, I can fully see Steam and Valve finally having that Game Pass integration into Steam to allow you to play the games through Steam as well that you want to. You'll always have the choice to buy your games, but I mean, at this one point I remember Gabe saying that he wouldn't be opposed to integrate Game Pass into Steam. So how you've got GeForce Now right now, where you go and you've got the Xbox option and you can just, you know, log in with your account for Xbox, and then if you've got Game Pass Ultimate active, those games can instantly be playable without you going to Epic or Steam and buying them. And I can see that being the same case with Steam. Once you've got your Microsoft account logged in, if you want to go and play Halo Infinite, that game will then instantly give you the option to buy it or just play it through Game Pass, just like GeForce Now does. And I can see that being the goal that they're going for. But I think that's all hinging on this integration being done. And they're kind of going to roll all of that out in one go. Things are changing quite rapidly in the background. Obviously, it's taken a while to resurface, but these, you know, where there's smoke, there's fire. And a lot of these rumors have been circulating for a while. They're not just coming out of thin air. Clearly, Microsoft is leaking the information bit by bit to try and drum up excitement and also just to gain awareness. This also brings us to the actual, you know, handheld that's coming this year, the themed handheld, not the actual first party Microsoft handheld, but it's a themed Asus handheld that will probably be where Microsoft goes to collect most of its data, along with everywhere else when they roll this app out. I can see that coming with the actual Asus handheld. I think this is a good thing. I think this is great, and as far as I'm concerned, for Xbox gamers, this just means more games. And where games were, you know, not coming out for your platform, like Wukong and stuff like that, none of that will happen anymore. Those games will be day and date. At that point, will Sony still pay for exclusivity? Because these companies say, yeah, you can't release it on another console, but we want to release it day and date on PC because that's a huge market and we want to capitalize off that market. The moment that happens, that game goes straight to Xbox as well. So will Sony change their stance when it comes to exclusivity? It's interesting times and things are rapidly changing all the time. But one thing is for sure, the old ways are slowly diminishing and the new ways are starting to emerge. It may take a few years to solidify, and that's okay, but the reality is, the moment this happens, I think you will see a lot more uptake in the Xbox console, because you'll be able to play everything you want, even if it's not at the highest possible quality of settings, all in one platform. What more could you possibly want? And with the handheld coming around, I think that's going to be a really good test to see where people's, points are, what their impressions are, what their views are, and the uptake is, especially for the first party handheld. I think these are all going to be really valuable data for Microsoft as they push forward in both the hardware and the software department. But folks, if you've made it this far, do consider hitting that like button, subscribe, hit that bell to stay up to date of all content I release. Are you excited for where Xbox is going? Can you envision Xbox Game Pass integration with Steam? Because I can, Gabe can, Phil can, so why can't you? You should be. But anyway, that's where we're at with the video today. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one. Of course, supporting me by hitting that like button and subscribe is totally free. You lose absolutely nothing, but if you want to support me further and support what I do directly, you can do that via the super thanks underneath the video, or by becoming a YouTube member where you can get content like this early. Well folks, that's it. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Leave your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll see you in the next one.